The war between Ukraine and Russia has had some dire consequences for Europe's economy. Sanctions have been put in place and the economy is just going further down. Not only that, but there have also been warnings from the latest Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which all underscore the need to renew and rebuild the EU's economic model and social contract. There have been various meetings regarding this matter where the future of Europe and the coming crisis in Europe have been discussed. Hello, and welcome back to our channel Tech Nation. In today's video, we are going to talk about the future of Europe and the coming European crisis. With that, let's dive right in. Having faced 2 years of pandemic-induced uncertainty, Europe's economy was already on its way to making a recovery. There was a certain level of optimism, not forgetting the pressing need to meet the demands of the twin green and digital transitions. However, things took a terrible turn when the Russian forces began a large-scale military operation in Ukraine at the end of February, causing widespread insecurity and economic hardship in Europe. Furthermore, with all the sanctions from the West, Russia has decided to act aggressively, which has had a great effect on the EU's policy debate as well as its economic outlook. There's a high rate of inflation as energy and food processing only get higher. Not only that, but supply chain bottlenecks persist across the entire economy. But what does this mean for the EU's economic interventionism? At the moment, the EU is working towards dealing with the insecurity that is all over. There has been a new phase when it comes to public interventionism in the EU's economy, all thanks to the pandemic as well as the Russian invasion. First of all, the new state aid temporary crisis framework, which is coupled with the extraordinary fiscal measures taken in response to the pandemic, permits member states to grant further aid to businesses. Secondly, the EU has now become fully committed to isolating Russia economically. Some of these restrictions will be through export and investment restrictions and progressively phasing out its dependence on Russian fossil fuels, as a way of supporting the green and digital transitions, which are all vital when it comes to reducing EU dependence on Russia and addressing climate change. The Recovery and Resilience Facility is providing public investments. In addition to all of that, the European Commission is also reviewing its economic governance framework, and it is most likely to create greater fiscal space to facilitate additional investments. Defense spending has also become a priority once more, with most of the member states already reorienting public resources to this area. Contrary to the 1990s narrative of free trade and retrenched state meddling guaranteeing prosperity, peace, and to some extent democracy, there has been a consensus for strategic autonomy and economic dynamics that are aligned with strategic political interests. On April 29th and 30th, the plenary session of the Conference of the Future of Europe, or COFOE, adopted the 49 proposals that were presented by the 9 thematic working groups. Also on May 9th, they were all submitted to the presidents of the 3 EU institutions. The final proposals will offer policymakers valuable insights when it comes to the citizens' uncertainties concerning the war in Ukraine and the post-pandemic economy. The proposals clearly take into account and accept the emerging consensus that is there among policymakers for European strategic autonomy. The citizens have called for the EU and member states to reduce their dependence when it comes to some of the major strategic sectors, such as semiconductors and medical research. In addition to that, they also support increasingly aligned economic and political strategies. A great example is developing transparent quality of life indicators, including economic, social, and rule of law criteria, in order to establish a clear and realistic timeline for raising social standards and achieving a common EU socio-economic structure. Nonetheless, it is also quite clear that the citizens are expecting equity and environmental sustainability to become fundamentally intertwined with the pursuit of some of the economic and political goals. Each objective that is accompanying the proposals for a renewed EU economy refers to wider societal or environmental goals. For example, consider a vision of a more social Europe, the full implementation of the European Pillar of Social Rights, lifelong EU support for citizens, as well as strong social and gender dimensions in investments. Similar sentiments can be found in other proposals, such as those addressing climate change, the environment, healthcare, and even the rule of law. According to the proposals, it is both implicitly and explicitly clear that the citizens wish to see the development of a European model of sustainable well-being. that is underpinned by a shared understanding of what matters to them. But what is it about this sustainable well-being economy? The well-being economy is based on the concept that public interests are the ones to determine economic policy, and it is not the other way around. It takes into consideration that the economy is embedded in society and nature. It also looks beyond the economic measures of gross domestic product or GDP, keeping an eye on and valuing what is more important to the people. This is mainly healthcare, nature, education, and communities. A well-being economy is an economic model that seeks to leave no one behind, having included everyone on a social level together with their equity. Instead of prioritizing on the issues that the people say matter more only when they are favoring either GDP growth, higher productivity, or even wider geopolitical strategy. These desires would eventually become the raison d'être of the economic model. The economy and the policies that go with it should work to make sure that everyone's economic, social, and environmental well-being is at its best. The COFOE has already gathered some of the insights from citizens regarding the EU's long-term direction. These insights are primarily about what people want from politicians, what they value the most, and what economic model they believe will allow them to thrive. Most citizens want to see increased EU interventionism with people and the planet at the center. With that in mind, the EU should now start prioritizing the development of a sustainable well-being economy. This could be achieved by mainly promoting a circular economy, enhancing corporate social and environmental responsibility, improving the health and well-being of citizens, guaranteeing decent wages for everyone, as well as an inclusive labor market, and reducing some of the inequalities. According to the citizens' recommendations, they call for a new economic model that puts its priority on equity, sustainability, and well-being. If the EU were to include these aims at the heart of policymaking, it would go a long way to reassure the citizens that the conference calls were heard. It would also go a long way towards reflecting the urgency of the climate crisis. Social fairness and environmental sustainability should all be embedded in the reform of EU economic governance as the first step to achieving this. The European semester process should find a way to incorporate some of the value-based indicators that will better reflect the twin green and digital transitions, as well as the well-being of people and the planet. In addition to all of that, participatory democracy should also continue, with regular opportunities for citizens to define a well-being framework. They should also determine which indicators will perfectly reflect their priorities and values and co-create some policies. EU policymakers should ensure that there is effective communication with the efforts given to listening to the citizens' concerns and desires equal to informing them of EU policy changes. There is a lot more to be done to ensure a well-being economy. But if the policymakers were able to achieve all of that, then they would have managed to build a better Europe, and the future would be much better than it is right now. What do you think of the proposals set forth? Feel free to let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon for more intriguing content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.